Gold digger dumps poor boyfriend for a CEO. The ending is shocking. The harsh glow of the computer screen was the only light in Ethan Mitchell's small apartment as his fingers flew across the keyboard. It was nearly midnight, but he was still deep in the code for his side project, a financial automation app he'd been working on for almost a year. Ethan pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose and took a swig of his now cold coffee, his eyes burning from exhaustion. "Are you seriously still working?" Tara's voice cut through his concentration. She stood in the doorway of his makeshift home office, arms crossed over her designer blouse, one he knew had cost nearly half his monthly rent. "Just finishing up this algorithm," Ethan replied, not taking his eyes off the screen. "It's almost there, Tara. The investor meeting next week could change everything for us." Tara rolled her eyes dramatically. "You've been saying that for months." "Almost there. Big break coming, but I'm still driving a 5-year-old Honda while my friends are posting vacation pics from Santorini." Ethan finally turned to face her. At 28, Tara Bennett was undeniably beautiful. Perfectly highlighted blonde hair, expertly applied makeup, and a figure she maintained with rigorous devotion at the expensive gym downtown. They'd met 2 years ago at a friend's housewarming party, and Ethan had been smitten immediately with her confidence and dazzling smile. Back then, his steady job as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company had seemed impressive enough for her. "I know it's been tough," he said gently. "But if this works out..." If, Tara interrupted, throwing her hands up. "I'm tired of living on if, Ethan. Do you know what Melissa's boyfriend got her for their anniversary? A weekend at the Four Seasons, and a Tiffany bracelet." "You know what you got me? A Home Chef subscription." Ethan winced. The meal kit service had seemed practical. Tara was always complaining about cooking, but he now realized how it must have looked compared to her friend's lavish gifts. "That's not fair," he said quietly. "I'm working 2 jobs basically, regular hours at Techloom, and then every spare minute on this app. I'm trying to build something real, something that will last. And I'm trying to live my life now," Tara shot back. "I'm not getting any younger, Ethan." The argument was an old one, repeated with increasing frequency over the past months. Ethan turned back to his computer, shoulders slumping slightly. "Just give me a few more months. This investor meet..." "I met someone," Tara interrupted, her voice suddenly calm. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Ethan's fingers froze above the keyboard. "What?" he asked, hoping he'd misheard. Tara straightened her posture, a mix of defiance and excitement crossing her face. "His name is Julian Royce. He's the CEO of Apex Innovations. We met at that charity gala I went to with Melissa last month, the one you were too busy coding to attend." Ethan slowly spun his chair to face her fully. "And what does met someone mean exactly?" Tara had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, but it passed quickly. "He's been pursuing me, Ethan, sending flowers to my office, taking me to lunch." "You've been dating him?" Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. "Not officially," Tara replied. "Not until now, but I'm ending things with us, Ethan. Julian and I connect on a different level. He understands ambition that's actually gotten somewhere." The casual cruelty of her words struck Ethan like a physical blow. "You're breaking up with me for a guy you barely know because he has money?" Tara's eyes flashed with anger. "That's reductive, and you know it. Julian is brilliant, driven, and yes, successful. He built his company from nothing into a luxury tech brand that celebrities use. He's where you're trying to get, Ethan. So I'm what? A starter boyfriend until something better comes along." Ethan stood up now, anger beginning to replace his shock. "Don't be dramatic," Tara sighed, checking her phone as it buzzed with a notification. A small smile touched her lips as she read whatever message had come through. "You have ambition, Ethan. But Julian has success. I've been patient, but I'm not waiting around anymore while you chase maybes." Ethan stared at her, this woman he thought he'd known so well, suddenly a stranger before him. 2 years together and you can end it just like that? Tara slipped her phone into her designer handbag, another item she'd hinted heavily that Ethan should have gifted her. "I already packed my things while you were coding. Julian's driver is waiting downstairs." The casual efficiency of it all was perhaps the most painful part. She'd planned this exit while he was working just feet away, completely oblivious. His driver, Ethan repeated flatly. Of course. I hope your app works out, Ethan, I really do. Tara's tone suggested she didn't actually believe it would. But I need to think about my future. As if on cue, her phone chimed again. She glanced at it and smiled. I have to go. Julian's taking me to Mastro's for a late dinner. Ethan said nothing, as she walked to the door, the scent of her expensive perfume lingering in the air. At the threshold she paused and looked back. You'll thank me someday, she said, with what seemed like genuine belief. This will push you to actually make something happen, instead of just talking about it. And then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her with finality. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of his apartment, their apartment until 5 minutes ago, trying to process what had just happened. His eyes fell on the small velvet box hidden behind his stack of programming books. He'd been saving for 6 months to buy the engagement ring inside, planning to propose once his app secured its first round of serious funding. He picked up the box and snapped it open, the modest diamond catching the blue light from his computer screen. It had seemed like a symbol of promise when he'd purchased it. Now it just looked sad and inadequate, much like how Tara had made him feel. Ethan closed the box and set it down. He didn't chase after her. He didn't call or text begging for another chance. Instead, he returned to his computer, sat down and began to type with renewed focus. If Tara wanted success instead of potential, then he would show her just how much potential she had walked away from. The next morning, Ethan woke up still in his desk chair, his neck stiff and his eyes burning. He'd worked straight through the night, channeling his heartbreak into his code. His phone was filled with missed calls and texts from friends. Apparently Tara had wasted no time updating her relationship status on social media. Curious despite himself, Ethan opened Instagram. Tara's profile was now filled with a new post, a selfie of her in what appeared to be an upscale restaurant, a champagne flute raised toward the camera. Beside her, with his arm wrapped possessively around her shoulders, sat a man Ethan had never seen before. Julian Royce was everything Ethan wasn't: tall, broad-shouldered, with the confident smile of a man who had never doubted his place in the world. His tailored suit probably cost more than Ethan's entire wardrobe. The caption read, "New beginnings with an incredible man. Sometimes the universe knows what you need before you do. Bless, CEO life." The comment section was filled with Tara's friends expressing shock and congratulations in equal measure. Some were tactful enough not to mention Ethan directly. Others weren't. Ethan closed the app and placed his phone face down on the desk. Then he opened his laptop and got back to work. The investor meeting was in 5 days, and he had a lot to prove, not just to Tara but to himself. As he immersed himself in his code, Ethan made a quiet promise. He wouldn't try to win her back. He wouldn't beg or plead. Instead, he would pour every ounce of his pain and determination into his work. And one day, success would speak louder than any words he could say now. With renewed clarity and focus, Ethan began to refine his financial automation algorithm, the heartbreak of the previous night transmuting slowly into the most powerful motivation he'd ever known. Tara's Instagram feed transformed overnight. Gone were the casual brunches at neighborhood cafes and movie nights on Ethan's worn couch. In their place appeared images of champagne flutes against Manhattan skylines, designer shopping bags arranged in artful displays, and sunset yacht cruises around the harbor. Another surprise from Julian. Blessed, spoiled CEO wife, read the caption beneath a photo of a robin's egg blue box containing a diamond bracelet that must have cost more than Ethan's monthly salary. Melissa, Tara's best friend, double-tapped the image and typed a comment. "Girl, you hit the jackpot." Tara smiled at her phone screen, lounging on the king-sized bed in Julian's penthouse apartment. The sheets were Egyptian cotton with a thread count she hadn't known existed before meeting him. 3 weeks into their relationship, and Julian had already given her a key, a platinum credit card for emergencies, and the kind of lifestyle she'd always dreamed about. "Babe, are you ready?" Julian appeared in the doorway, looking impossibly handsome in his tailored Tom Ford suit. At 36, he carried himself with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to getting what he wanted. "The Dalton fundraiser starts in an hour, and you know how traffic gets." Tara hurriedly put down her phone. "Just posting about the bracelet." "It's absolutely stunning, Julian." He smiled, a flash of perfect white teeth. "Only the best for my girl." He checked his own phone. "Let me just send a few emails before we go." Crisis at the office. Speaking of the office, Tara ventured, sliding off the bed and smoothing down her new Valentino dress. When am I going to get to see it? I'd love to bring you lunch sometime. Meet your team. A slight tension appeared in Julian's shoulders. Headquarters is a madhouse right now with the new product launch. Maybe next month when things calm down. He kissed her forehead. Trust me, it's just a bunch of stressed people staring at computers. Nothing exciting. It wasn't the first time he'd deflected questions about his work. Whenever Tara asked specific questions about Apex Innovations or his role there, Julian would change the subject or provide vague answers about proprietary technology and confidential dealings. At the Dalton fundraiser that evening, Tara clung to Julian's arm as he worked the room. He seemed to know everyone, or at least, everyone seemed to know him. When introduced, people would nod with impressed expressions, though Tara noticed they rarely engaged him in specific conversation about his business. Julian Royce? From Apex. One gray-haired man had asked with a slightly puzzled expression. That's right, Julian had replied smoothly. We keep a low profile, selective client list. Later, as Julian chatted with a group of men by the bar, Tara pulled out her phone and typed Julian Royce Apex Innovations into Google. Strange for a CEO of a supposedly major tech company, his digital footprint was remarkably small. A sparse LinkedIn profile, no corporate website she could find, and no press mentions. She frowned, then jumped, as Julian appeared at her shoulder. Taking selfies for your adoring followers? He teased, but his eyes flicked to her screen. Tara quickly closed the browser. Just checking emails. Meanwhile, across town in his small apartment, Ethan was in the final stages of preparation for his investor meeting. His financial automation app, FinScript, had evolved significantly in the weeks since Tara's departure. Without the distraction of trying to maintain their relationship, he'd channeled all his energy into refining the algorithm. His phone buzzed with a text from his friend Dave. Dude, have you seen Tara's Insta lately? That Julian guy is splashing some serious cash. Ethan ignored the message. He hadn't looked at Tara's social media since the breakup. The investor meeting was tomorrow, and he needed absolute focus. The next day, dressed in his best suit, his only suit really, Ethan presented FinScript to a panel of 5 investors. His hands trembled slightly at first, but as he began explaining the elegant simplicity of his automation system, confidence took over. What we're offering is a way for small businesses to manage cash flow with the sophistication of major corporations, but without the overhead of a financial department, he explained, demonstrating the app's interface. 2 hours later, Ethan walked out with a commitment for $500,000 in seed funding. That night, as Ethan celebrated quietly with a beer and takeout, Tara found herself alone in Julian's penthouse again. He'd rushed out claiming an emergency board meeting, taking his laptop and briefcase with him. When she'd asked which board, he'd been frustratingly vague. Opening his closet to borrow a sweater, Tara noticed something odd. Multiple identical suits, shirts and ties, as if he were a cartoon character with only one outfit option. In the back, partially hidden, she found a stack of business cards, with different names but the same face. Julian's face smiling back at her. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. Something wasn't right. Tara woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, the 300 thread-count sheets tangled around her legs. She reached across the king-sized bed, but Julian's side was empty. Not unusual, he often rose early for international calls, with business partners in different time zones. Julian? She called, slipping into the monogrammed silk robe he'd given her last week. No answer. The penthouse was eerily quiet. In the kitchen, she found no coffee brewing, no note on the counter. Julian's meticulous routine had become familiar to her over the past 6 weeks. This deviation was odd. Tara padded into the walk-in closet they shared, where her growing collection of designer clothes now occupied nearly half the space. Something felt off. She scanned Julian's side and froze. His section was empty. Suits, shoes, watches, all gone. Julian, she called again, louder this time, her heart beginning to race. Racing to the bathroom, she yanked open the medicine cabinet. His toiletries had vanished. Back in the bedroom, she grabbed her phone from the nightstand and dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. You've reached Julian Royce. Leave a message. As panic rose in her throat, Tara noticed her jewelry box open on the dresser. She'd left her new diamond bracelet, the Cartier watch, and several other expensive pieces Julian had given her inside. All gone. With trembling fingers, she opened her designer handbag, searching for her wallet. Credit cards, gone. Cash, gone. Only her ID remained. No, she whispered, frantically checking her phone's banking app. Her accounts showed multiple withdrawals and transfers over the past week, transactions she never made. Her savings had been drained to zero. The hotel room phone rang, making her jump. She snatched it up. "Miss Bennett? This is Martin from the front desk. There seems to be an issue with the room payment. The credit card on file has been declined." "What? That's impossible. My boyfriend, Mr. Royce, he handles the payments. I'm afraid Mr. Royce checked out at 5 a.m. this morning. He left instructions that you would be handling the remaining balance of..." Tara's legs gave out, and she sank onto the edge of the bed. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake, ma'am. Will you be providing an alternative form of payment, or shall I send security up to assist with your immediate checkout?" 2 hours later, Tara sat in a sterile police station, giving her statement to a detective who looked like he'd heard this story before. "Julian Royce," the detective repeated, typing the name into his computer. "And you say he claimed to be the CEO of Apex Innovations?" "Yes," Tara said, mascara streaking her cheeks. She'd been forced to leave most of her possessions behind at the hotel as collateral. "We met at the Hartwell Foundation Gala. He had an invitation. Everyone seemed to know him." The detective turned his screen toward her, showing a series of mugshots, all the same man, Julian, but with different hairstyles and names. "Is this your boyfriend?" Tara gasped. "That's him. That's Julian. His real name is Derek Mercer. He's a con artist who targets wealthy women, or women with access to money. He's been operating up and down the East Coast for years." "But I'm not wealthy," Tara protested. The detective raised an eyebrow. "Did you provide him access to your financial accounts? Credit card information? Personal details?" Tara nodded slowly, remembering how Julian had offered to optimize her finances, how he'd convinced her to add him as an authorized user on her credit cards for emergencies. "He didn't just take my money," she whispered. "He took everything. My jewelry, electronics, designer clothes. Classic exit strategy." The detective sighed. By now he's probably liquidated everything and moved on to his next target. But everyone knew him. He was at charity events, knew all the right people. That's his specialty. He studies society pages, learns who's who, pays for access to exclusive events, and creates a fictional persona that's just vague enough to seem legitimate. The luxury tech industry is perfect, exclusive, mysterious, and impressive enough that few people ask specific questions. Tara felt physically ill. "Can you catch him? We'll add your case to his file, but frankly, he's good at what he does. Changes his appearance, his name, his tactics. And many victims don't report out of embarrassment." As Tara left the police station, her phone buzzed with notifications. A friend had tagged her in a post. A news article about a financial app securing significant investment. In the photo she glimpsed a familiar face, Ethan, looking confident in his worn suit, shaking hands with investors. Back in her apartment, which thankfully she hadn't given up yet, though she'd been about to at Julian's suggestion, Tara sat amidst unopened mail and dust. Her roommate had moved out weeks ago, unable to afford the rent alone, after Tara had essentially moved in with Julian. She opened her laptop, wincing at the barrage of notifications. Friends commenting on her sudden social media silence, asking about Julian. With trembling fingers, she composed a vague post about taking a break from social media, too ashamed to admit the truth. Later that evening, her phone rang, a recruitment agency where she'd interviewed before meeting Julian. They offered her a position as an administrative assistant at a small firm. The salary was barely enough to cover her rent, but after today's humiliation, any income felt like a lifeline. As night fell, Tara curled up on her bare mattress. Her designer lifestyle evaporated like morning dew. All that remained were maxed-out credit cards, emptied bank accounts, and the crushing weight of her own gullibility. While Tara's world collapsed around her, Ethan Mitchell's was expanding in ways he barely dared to dream. The morning after securing his seed funding, Ethan had given notice at his day job. His boss, a veteran software developer named Richard, had seemed unsurprised. I've watched you building that app nights and weekends for a year, Richard said, leaning back in his chair. Knew it was just a matter of time before you flew the coop. You've got the hunger, kid. Thanks for understanding, Ethan replied, relief washing over him. And for all the mentoring. Richard nodded. Just remember us little people when you're running your empire. He'd meant it as a joke, but the words would prove oddly prophetic. With his newfound funding, Ethan rented a small office space in a co-working building downtown. He hired 2 former classmates from his computer science program, Maya, a brilliant coder who'd been wasting away at a corporate IT desk, and Devin, whose talent for user interface design was unmatched. Together, the trio worked 14-hour days refining FinScript, turning Ethan's solid prototype into something exceptional. The automation sequence is running 40% faster now, Maya announced one evening, 3 months into development. She spun in her chair to face Ethan, who was hunched over his own monitor. We could push beta testing up by 2 weeks at this rate. Ethan nodded, eyes never leaving his screen. Let's do it. The sooner real users get their hands on it, the sooner we can fix what needs fixing. Unlike most tech startups that made noise before they had a product, Ethan kept FinScript's development quiet. No flashy press releases, no premature marketing campaigns. He built in silence, focused entirely on creating something of genuine value. The beta testing phase exceeded all expectations. Small business owners raved about the intuitive interface and the time saved on financial management. Accounting firms began inquiring about enterprise licenses. By the 6-month mark, FinScript had a waiting list of clients eager to subscribe once the official launch happened. Through it all, Ethan maintained his low profile. He deleted his social media accounts the day after Tara left, finding them more distraction than benefit. The few friends who stayed in touch knew better than to mention her name. Techies magazine wants to interview you, Devin said, one morning waving his phone at Ethan. They're doing a feature on disruptive fintech startups. Ethan shook his head. Not interested. The product speaks for itself, but the tech world was starting to take notice regardless. Investment offers began rolling in, each larger than the last. Then came the email that changed everything. Global Finance wants to meet, Maya said, eyes wide as she read the message on Ethan's monitor over his shoulder. That's huge, Ethan. Global Finance was one of the largest financial technology companies in the world. An acquisition by them would mean resources beyond anything they currently had, and personal wealth Ethan had never imagined. The meeting took place at Global Finance's sleek headquarters. Ethan, in a new suit that still felt foreign on his lanky frame, demonstrated FinScript to a room of executives. When he finished, the CEO himself leaned forward. What's your long-term vision for this technology, Mr. Mitchell? Ethan didn't hesitate. To democratize financial management. Small businesses shouldn't need a CFO to have sophisticated financial intelligence. The CEO nodded slowly. How does $75 million sound? With a 3-year contract for you to lead continued development as part of our team. 2 weeks later, the acquisition was official. Ethan found himself with a corner office at Global Finance and more money than he knew what to do with. Maya and Devin became department heads with substantial equity payouts of their own. On his first free weekend as a millionaire, Ethan visited a luxury real estate agent. I'm looking for something comfortable, he said, still uncomfortable with his new wealth. Nothing too ostentatious. The agent showed him a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. This just came on the market when the previous owner had to liquidate assets unexpectedly, she explained. Ethan recognized the building immediately. It was Julian's former penthouse. The universe had a strange sense of humor. I'll take it, he said quietly, seeing it as a symbolic closing of a chapter. He moved in with little fanfare and minimal possessions. Despite his newfound wealth, Ethan remained the same humble, focused person. His new apartment was sparsely furnished, his closet still modest. The only real luxury he allowed himself was a state-of-the-art home office, where he continued to work long hours. While he avoided publicity, others took notice. A profile and business innovator listed him among their top 10 entrepreneurs under 30, describing him as the quiet revolutionary of financial technology. The article mentioned how he'd built his company with minimal publicity, letting the product's excellence be its marketing. What the article didn't mention, because Ethan had never told anyone, was how a painful breakup had catalyzed his success. How being told he wasn't enough had driven him to prove his worth, not to win someone back, but to vindicate his own belief in himself. As spring turned to summer, Ethan's success continued to grow. Global Finance promoted him to Chief Innovation Officer, giving him free rein to develop new technologies, and with his newly acquired resources, he began planning something even more ambitious. A startup incubator to help other driven developers with promising ideas navigate the treacherous waters between concept and success. Ethan named it Potential Labs, a subtle nod to what Tara had failed to see in him. The irony wasn't lost on him, but there was no bitterness in the gesture, only a quiet acknowledgement of how far he'd come. Tara Bennett adjusted her blazer and checked her reflection in her phone's camera. The second-hand suit was a far cry from the designer clothes she'd flaunted during her time with Julian. But it was clean, professional, and most importantly paid for. After 8 months of working as a receptionist at a small accounting firm, she'd finally saved enough to begin paying down her debts. The Julian disaster had left more than financial scars. Her friends had slowly drifted away after the truth came out, embarrassed by association, or tired of her inability to participate in their expensive social activities. Her credit score had plummeted, her confidence had been shattered. But today represented a new opportunity. A promising startup was hiring administrative staff for their new headquarters, and the salary was nearly double what she currently made. The recruiter had been impressed with her resume and phone interview, enough to schedule this final in-person meeting. The address led her to a sleek building in the heart of downtown. Potential Labs, read the understated sign in the lobby. As she rode the elevator to the 15th floor, Tara mentally rehearsed her answers to common interview questions. The doors opened to reveal a modern, open-concept office space, buzzing with energy. Young professionals moved purposefully between standing desks and collaboration pods. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased panoramic city views. It was exactly the kind of vibrant environment Tara had always imagined herself working in. "Ms. Bennett?" a friendly-faced woman approached. "I'm Zoe, head of HR. Welcome to Potential Labs." Zoe led her through the space, explaining the company's mission as they walked. "We're an incubator for promising tech startups, providing funding, mentorship, and resources to help them scale." Tara nodded, genuinely interested. "It sounds like meaningful work." "It is. Our founder believes strongly in supporting entrepreneurs with vision, especially those who might be overlooked by traditional venture capital." Zoe paused outside a conference room. "The position you're interviewing for would be supporting our executive team directly. It's demanding but rewarding." The interview went well. Tara answered questions confidently, drawing on her administrative experience and emphasizing her organizational skills. When asked about her 5-year plan, she spoke honestly about rebuilding her career and financial stability, though she carefully avoided mentioning Julian or her fall from grace. "I think you'd be a great fit here," Zoe said, as they concluded. "Just one more step. Our founder likes to meet all potential team members personally. He should be wrapping up his current meeting shortly." Tara's phone buzzed with a text. She discreetly checked it. A payment reminder from her credit card company. Another consequence of Julian's betrayal that would follow her for years. "Sorry about that," she said, tucking the phone away. "No problem. Let's wait in the lobby. He'll be coming through any minute." They settled in comfortable chairs near the elevator. Tara took the opportunity to observe the office culture. Everyone seemed focused but not stressed, committed but not burned out. This was somewhere she could see herself thriving. The elevator dinged, and a group of people emerged, engaged in animated conversation. Among them was a tall man in a well-tailored but not flashy suit, his back to Tara as he responded to a colleague's question. Something about his stance triggered a memory. As the group approached, the man turned slightly, and Tara's heart stopped. Ethan. He looked different, more confident, more polished, but unmistakably Ethan. Her Ethan. Or rather, the Ethan she had discarded. Zoe stood up, perfect timing. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Tara Bennett, the candidate for the executive support position." Ethan turned fully, his conversation trailing off as his eyes met Tara's. For a brief moment, surprise flickered across his face before his expression settled into unreadable neutrality. Tara stood on wobbly legs, suddenly feeling like she might be sick. "Ethan," she managed to say, her voice barely audible. You two know each other? Zoe asked, looking between them. Ethan gave a slight nod. We're acquainted. His voice was the same, but his demeanor had changed, more assured, more measured. The colleagues around him seemed to sense the tension. One by one, they made excuses to step away, until only Ethan, Tara, and an increasingly uncomfortable Zoe remained. I didn't know, Tara said eventually, when the silence became unbearable. That this was your company. It is. Ethan's response was simple, matter of fact. Tara swallowed hard. Your app. It was successful. Very. His eyes showed no anger, no triumph, no emotion at all. Just calm assessment. Zoe looked between them again. Should I give you two a moment? That won't be necessary, Ethan replied. Ms. Bennett and I have nothing to discuss. The dismissal stung more than Tara expected. She straightened her spine, summoning what dignity she could. Ethan, can we talk? She asked, forcing confidence into her voice. The staff, still within earshot, watched with poorly disguised curiosity. Ethan glanced at his expensive watch, a subtle reminder of how much had changed. Sorry, he said evenly. I have a meeting with someone who believed in me when I had nothing. The pointed comment landed like a physical blow. Tara stood frozen as Ethan nodded politely to Zoe and walked away, never looking back. Zoe cleared her throat. I'll be in touch about the position, she said awkwardly. Tara knew she wouldn't. The job opportunity, like so much else in her life, had just slipped through her fingers. 3 weeks after the disastrous encounter at Potential Labs, Tara sat at her receptionist desk, mechanically answering phones and routing calls. The accounting firm's drab office felt even more stifling now that she'd glimpsed the vibrant workspace she might have been part of, if not for her past choices. She hadn't heard from Zoe or anyone at Potential Labs, as expected. Another opportunity lost to the ghost of her mistake. Did you see this? Her coworker Jen slid a tablet across the desk during their lunch break. That tech guy is everywhere these days. Tara glanced down at the screen and froze. It was a live stream of a business conference, where Ethan was being interviewed on stage. Gone was the awkward, slightly disheveled programmer she'd known. This Ethan moved with confidence, spoke with authority, and commanded attention without trying. And what would you say is the secret to your success, Mr. Mitchell? The interviewer was asking. Ethan considered the question for a moment. Believing in yourself when no one else does, he answered finally. Success isn't just about technical skill or business acumen. It's about perseverance, continuing to build even when others don't see your vision. The interviewer nodded appreciatively. Many young entrepreneurs look up to you now. What's the most important advice you'd give them? Be careful who you let into your journey, Ethan said without hesitation. Surround yourself with people who believe in your potential, not just your achievements, and recognize that setbacks, even painful ones, can be the catalyst for your greatest growth. Tara's throat tightened. She knew he wasn't speaking directly to her, yet every word felt personal. One last question, the interviewer said. With all your success, the acquisition deal, Potential Labs, your new venture fund, what drives you now? Ethan smiled slightly. Loyalty and trust. In business and in life, those values are non-negotiable for me. When I invest in a startup, I'm not just betting on a business model, I'm betting on people who demonstrate those qualities. The interview ended to enthusiastic applause. The video cut to commentators discussing Ethan's meteoric rise. He's become something of a folk hero in tech circles, one analyst explained. The man who let his success speak for him. Unlike most young tech millionaires, he avoided publicity until he'd actually built something valuable. Now his story is inspiring a whole generation of developers. Tara handed the tablet back to Jen, her lunch suddenly unappetizing. Isn't he dreamy? Jen sighed. Smart, successful, and seems like a genuinely good guy. Whoever ends up with him hit the jackpot. Yeah, Tara managed to reply. Lucky her. That evening in her small studio apartment, all she could afford while rebuilding her credit, Tara found herself searching for more interviews with Ethan. In each one he was the same, confident but humble, successful but grounded, powerful but kind. The qualities had always been there, she realized. She just hadn't valued them. On impulse, she opened her email and began typing. Ethan, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but after seeing your interview today, I needed to reach out. What I did to you was unforgivable. I chose flash over substance, and I've paid the price in ways you can't imagine. I'm not asking for another chance. I know that ship has sailed. I just wanted you to know that I recognize now what I was too shallow to see then. You were always going to be successful, because you have what really matters. Integrity, vision, and determination. Congratulations on everything you've achieved. You deserved it then, and you deserve it now. Tara. Her finger hovered over the send button for a long moment before she closed the draft without sending it. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, and some lessons had to be lived with, not absolved. The next morning, Tara arrived at work to find her co-workers clustered around the break room, television. Breaking news was reporting the arrest of Derek Mercer, Julian Royce in Marseille, France. Authorities apprehended the notorious romance scammer after a joint international investigation, the reporter announced. Mercer is believed to have defrauded dozens of women across 3 continents of more than $20 million collectively. Tara felt an odd sense of closure watching his mugshot appear on screen. He'd taken so much from her, but he'd also taught her an invaluable lesson about judging character. 6 months later, Tara sat in a small office, interviewing for an administrative position at a new tech startup. Her qualifications were solid, her references positive from her current job where she'd worked diligently to rebuild her professional reputation. Why do you want to work for a startup rather than an established company? The interviewer asked. Tara considered the question carefully. Because I believe in supporting genuine innovation, she answered honestly. And because I've learned that true value isn't always in what's flashiest or most impressive on the surface. As she left the interview, a notification popped up on her phone. A news alert about Ethan Mitchell. Potential Labs had just launched a program specifically for entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, providing not just funding but mentorship and support. In the accompanying photo, Ethan stood with his diverse team of partners, his expression one of quiet pride. He'd moved forward, continued building, never looking back. And in her own small way, Tara was finally doing the same.